All right, let's get into this because I genuinely believe Elliot Anderson has been a better midfielder this season than Adam Wharton. And before you jump into the comments, let me explain why. I'm not just saying that because of vibes or highlights. Nah, we're going off data, metrics, and impact. Because when you're judging midfielders at the top level, you can't just go off how good someone looks on the ball. You've got to look at what they're actually doing with it, how much they influence the game, and how consistently they do it. So let's break it down. When I'm analysing midfielder, I always look at three key things: passes attempted, pass completion, and progressive passes. These three tell you everything about involvement, accuracy, and intent. So let's start with passes attempted, because this one's so underrated. Passes attempted basically tell you how involved a midfielder is during games. How often do they want to get on the ball? How much do they try to control the tempo? Top midfielders, guys like Rodri, Pedri, Kimmich, Vitinha, they live on the ball. They want it constantly because that's how they dictate the rhythm of the match. Then comes pass completion, and this is where quality meets consistency. It's one thing to get a lot of touches, but how often are you actually completing those passes? Are you finding teammates under pressure? Are you playing safe, or are you still breaking lines while maintaining accuracy? Because that's what separates the good midfielders from the elite midfielders, the ability to combine control with precision. And finally, progressive passing, the gold standard. This tells you how often a player moves the ball forward into dangerous areas. Anyone can recycle possession sideways, but progressive passing shows intent. It shows creativity, risk-taking, and game intelligence. Now, on top of these three, I also look at shot-creating actions, or SCAs. Basically, how often a midfielder directly contributes to a chance being created. This is huge because it shows who's actually driving attacking play, not just keeping possession ticking over. If you look at the best midfielders in the world right now, Vitinha, Pedri, Kimmich, Rodri, they all share these traits. They get on the ball more than anyone else, they complete their passes at elite levels, they play progressive balls constantly, and they contribute heavily to shot creation. So, those are the four metrics I use as my framework. Now, of course people are going to say, what about defensive work? What about tackles and interceptions? And they're right, defensive metrics do matter, but they're also heavily dependent on context. Think about it. If you're playing in a side that keeps the ball most of the time, your defensive output will naturally look lower. It doesn't mean you're lazy or poor defensively, it just means you're not getting as many opportunities to make tackles or interceptions. So when I evaluate defense, I don't just look at raw numbers. I look at success rates. How effective are they when they do engage? How often do they win those duels? That to me paints a much clearer picture than simply counting how many tackles they've made. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's get into the comparison itself, because this is where it gets interesting. Elliot Anderson. This season, Elliot Anderson has been quietly putting up ridiculous numbers. Let's start with his involvement. 79 passes per 90 minutes. That puts him in the 99th percentile in the Premier League. That's insane. This isn't a City player we're talking about. This is a guy playing for a team that's battling relegation, and yet he's still touching the ball almost 80 times a game. That says a lot about his confidence, his willingness to take responsibility, and his ability to stay involved even in a struggling side. Now, in terms of pass completion, he sits around 83%, which ranks in the 46th percentile. Not elite, but that's fine contextually. Because remember, when you're in a team under pressure, you're forced into riskier passes, tighter spaces, and faster transitions. So 83% in that kind of environment is still impressive. Then you look at progressive passes, and this is where he really shines. Anderson completes 8.9 progressive passes per 90 minutes, ranking in the 99th percentile again. That's world class. We're talking levels comparable to some of the top creative midfielders in Europe. And it doesn't stop there. His successful take-ons, 96th percentile. His shot-creating actions, 94th percentile, with 4.6 shot-creating actions per 90. Those are elite creative outputs from a 21-year-old in a struggling team. Now, let's bring Adam Wharton into the mix. Adam Wharton's been good, technically tidy, good awareness, composed, but when you put the numbers next to Anderson, it's a different story. Wharton attempts 40 passes per 90 compared to Anderson's 79. That's half the involvement. He completes 76.9%, so slightly lower than Anderson, and manages 5.14 progressive passes per 90 compared to Anderson's 8.9. So even in shot creating actions, Wharton averages 3.29 while Anderson posts 4.6. So across the board, involvement, progression, creativity, Anderson's numbers blow Wharton's out of the water. Even on defensive output, Anderson ranks higher. Though, like I said earlier, that might just be because his team defends more often. But still, it shows he's putting in work on both ends. Now, let's look at deeper, into the more advanced stuff like through balls and switches. Through balls are those passes played between defenders into open space. Think De Bruyne-style passes that split lines. Switches are long, diagonal passes that travel across the width of the pitch. Great for changing play and creating overloads. Anderson completes about 0.30 through balls per 90, ranking in the 63rd percentile, and 0.70 switches per 90, which ranks in the 94th percentile. That's a strong sign of the player who can both create centrally and dictate the rhythm of the play across the pitch. Wharton actually outperforms him slightly in through balls, 0.86 per 90, which puts him in the 96th percentile, so credit where it's due. But when it comes to switches, Anderson is clear. 94th percentile versus Wharton's 51st. So while his vertical passing is sharper, Anderson is much more dynamic in terms of switching play and controlling tempo. Now let's talk about ball security, because this is where Anderson still has work to do. Two key metrics here are miscontrols and dispossession. A miscontrol is basically a poor first touch, when you fail to bring the ball under control. Dispossessed means losing the ball after being tackled, not during a dribble attempt, just in regular possession. And here's the truth. Anderson isn't great in these categories yet. He miscontrols the ball about 2 times per 90 and gets dispossessed 1.3 times per 90, ranking in the 13th percentile for both. That's pretty low, meaning he still needs to polish his composure in tight spaces. Meanwhile, Adam Wharton is far tidier. He ranks in the 73rd percentile for miscontrols and 68th percentile for dispossessions. So he's more secure and rarely loses the ball unnecessarily. So to summarize, Wharton might be cleaner and safer, but Anderson is far more influential and progressive. One plays it safe and keeps things ticking over. The other actually drives the game forward and creates danger. And that, for me, is the difference between a good midfielder and a game-changing one. So when you put everything together, involvement, progression, creativity, and control, Elliot Anderson comes out on top. Yes, he still needs to refine his touch and improve under pressure, but the sheer volume and impact of his play are levels above what you'd expect from a player in his situation. He's carrying possession, progressing play, and creating chances in a side that barely dominates games. Now imagine what those numbers could look like if he was surrounded by better players. If he played in a system that kept the ball more, with better movement and structure around him. We could be talking about a midfielder ready to explode into the next tier. So yes, statistically, tactically, and creatively, Elliot Anderson has been better this season than Adam Wharton. He's not just performing, he's thriving against the odds. And that for me is the mark of a genuinely special player.